Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to a video, and this is a paid request from Alban. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, reviews, re-reviews, topics, reactions, commentaries, whatever the case may be, video game Let's Try, playthrough, PayPal's usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. Both links are down in the info box over there, wherever the case may be, this week on YouTube. Alban wanted me to look into the Pelican Brief that came out around 1993. And this is one of those films is based on a John Grisham novel, just like you had The Client, among many other films. And this is one of those films I always wanted to like more than I do. Because I like the director, may he rest in peace, Alan J. Pakula. He did All the President's Men, which I enjoy that film. Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman. I think that's a very solid movie. And the cast, you got Julia Roberts in her heyday. You got Denzel Washington climbing up the ladder of stardom. You have people like Sam Shepard, John Hurd, who was the dad in Home Alone, among many other films. You got Tony Goldwyn, who was in the 1990 film Ghost. You have William Atherton from Ghostbusters. You have Stanley Tucci. You got Hume Cronin, who I remember in films like Batteries Not Included and Cocoon. John Lithgow was in the film, which I think the same year he was in Cliffhanger. He had been in Harry and the Hendersons. So it's got a very stacked cast. So you have an accomplished director that's done films like All the President's Men. You have a hell of a cast. John Grisham, he can make a story somewhat interesting in some of the films that have been based on his work. But this film just comes off as very boring. It's a very, very lethargic pace to it. Lethargic pace. Number one, it did not need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long. There was no reason for that. And yes, you're going into this film, you're not going to get a lot of action. You're not going to get a lot of that type of stuff. It's not what it's for. But I don't think there's enough story there to pace it this bloated. And then, the cover, the poster, the DVD, there's Julia Roberts and Denzel together. They don't get together until the 1 hour and 8-minute mark. Now, when they're together, they have nice chemistry. They don't go for the typical love story. I think that was Denzel's choice, which I'm fine with because it shows that not everything needs to be a love story. And no time for love, Dr. Jones. Hey, we're getting shot at. We're ready to be killed by snipers. Let's go have some Fernando Horizontal fun. No. Doesn't always have to be the case. But I mean, the story is 2 Supreme Court Justice members are murdered. One of them is Hume Cronin, who Denzel talked to for a bit before he passes. Julia Roberts is a law student. Her lover, boyfriend, whatever, is her professor, played by Sam Shepard. She has a bit of a theory, but she knows in her mind is a goofy theory, so she wrote this brief, nicknamed the Pelican Brief. Sam Shepard goes, oh, well, this is interesting. So he brings it to a buddy of his, John Hurd, who works for the higher-ups. He's like, you should give this a read. She has a pretty active imagination. So John Hurd takes it, looks at it, shows it around. One thing leads to another, and Sam Shepard dies in a car bomb that was also meant for Julia Roberts. She's on the run, being hunted. And the only person that could help her is a Washington reporter. I forget, it was the Washington Herald, played by Denzel Washington. And his boss is John Lithgow. And Denzel doesn't have a whole lot to do in the first hour. Once in a while he shows up following this guy who names himself Garcia. And talks with him a couple times on the phone, tries to get info, able to follow him for a bit, take pictures, but he's not able to follow him too far. But at least he has a face. Then about an hour in, he gets a call from Julia Roberts and some little bit of cab mouse where Julia's chased through a couple areas, and then ultimately the two meet and discuss what to do next. Stanley Tucci, he plays an assassin. Who else did I mention? Tony Goldwyn, he's a guy who works for the president. Oh, the president is Robert Culp, who's been a lot of stuff. I think he was on... Was he on that TV show with Bill Cosby back in the day? I Spy. I could be wrong, but I think that was him. But yeah, Tony Goldwyn works for the president. William Atherton, he's... I forget. It's not much of a role. Anybody could have played it, so doesn't even mean... Who gives a shit to go into it? It's not much of a role. John Hurd, he's upset that his friend has died, so he's trying to figure out what's going on, but it doesn't end well for him. Again, like the movie, it needed a much tighter pace. Much tighter pace. You could have told this story in 90 minutes or 100 minutes. It did not need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. Because again, there's not that much there to have this long ass of a movie. And again, it gets very tedious and boring. I don't think the story, spoiler alert, the Pelican Brief is something to do with this oil tycoon guy who wanted to dig up this marshland, but he was stopped by these environmental people because there's these specific pelicans that are on the endangered species list. And some people higher up who are for environmental protection policies, including the two Supreme Court justice members, put a stop to that. So them killing these two guys, now they can put whoever they want into those slots so that they can overturn this bit of business and dig up the marshland and Pelican, fly up the ass, fly into the sun, fly into a Hooters for all I care. Or all they care. Pelicans, fly into some Hooters. Both the place and the Hooters themselves, I don't care. Julia Roberts, I don't mind Julia Roberts. I liked her as an actress. This is her heyday after Pretty Woman and Flatliners, among other films. So she was still somewhat a bankable star. The film did well. It made $100 million in the U.S. So it did well at the box office. Critic-wise, I don't know. I think some critics felt the same way I did, that I don't know it needed to be this damn long. There's a few little foot chases where Julia Roberts is being chased by bad guys, but they're kind of in one ear out the other, typical stuff that I've seen. I saw that done better in The Net with Sandra Bullock, which people give that movie crap, but that one I thought had more interesting story, much more of a tighter pace. I thought it drew the tension. It turned the screws a bit tighter to make it feel a bit more exciting. Like I said, lethargic is the way I describe this. Like I say, it's not till an hour and 8 minutes where your two leads finally get together, and even then it's, spoiler, they're in a hotel room and she explains what happened and he's got the tape recorder. Then he's writing down what she's saying as he's listening to the tape recorder. Then he's talking to his boss, which his boss tells him, let it go, you don't have enough evidence. Then it seems like Julia left. And John Lithgow says, take a break, go over here on this other job. And Denzel's like, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to go to this cabin. And then Julia arrives because she was lied. She lied on the phone in case people had the phone tapped, so they think she's out of the country. And they're looking at leads. They find the guy who was named Garcia, but his name is actually Morgan. He's dead. Oh, there's a scene before meeting Denzel where she thinks she's going to talk to John Hurd, but it's actually Stanley Tucci. But then Tucci gets killed. You find out much later who did that. There was actually a group of people helping Julia Roberts. Granted, you think they could have helped a lot more, and you think they could have helped a lot better than they did. But whatever the hell with them. So they find this Garcia or Morgan dead, so they talk to his widow, and then they're able to get these papers and some about this oil and gas section the guy worked with. They start the car, and thankfully every car bomb that you put in, the car will stutter. Julia heard that with Sam Shepard. She knows it's the same sound. Get the hell out of Dodge. Tis again, every car bomb, it always has a stutter. So thank goodness for that. Some great car bombs. Apparently this guy doesn't know how to do a car bomb. All car bombs start with a stutter and a sputter. So thank God for that. How convenient that is. So they make a run for it. There's a little action scene in a parking garage. Where it looked like they went multiple floors, but they somehow get to the same one so that the car the bad guy is in hits Denzel's rental car and it blows up. Just, I don't know. I guess they didn't go multiple floors. I guess really they were just hiding around in the same floor. Granted, you would think that you want to go multiple floors, up or down, to as deep, but maybe it's just the same floor. So that's one of the few action pieces in the movie. They get the VHS tape confession, they show it to John Lithgow, they show it to people out there, and there's a ton of indictments. Julia leaves the country. Her and Denzel say goodbye. Denzel has an interview. People are saying, well, this girl, this Julia girl, some say she never existed. Some say she's too good to be true. And Denzel, she almost is too good to be true. Julia smiles. She does have a great smile. And then the movie's over. It's just that there's other movies about people who are being chased by government officials or on the run that are just much more exciting, much more thrilling. Whether it be Enemy of the State with Will Smith. Yes, I know people make fun of Sandra Bullock's film The Net. It's unrealistic. That's how the internet was at the time. I think it was very ambitious to what hacking and stealing your identity that you see all the time now. I think it was ahead of its time in that motif. And it's not its fault it was made in that time period to not have all the exact details correct. But they did a valiant effort for what they had at the time. And it was much, again, tighter pace. So The Net I enjoyed more. Enemy of the State I enjoyed more. Even chase movies like The Fugitive I enjoyed more. Hell, U.S. Marshals I enjoyed more. A Time to Kill. Just think of John Grisham. I enjoyed that more. This, I can see why no one really remembers the Pelican Brief, even though you have two big stars like Julia Roberts and Denzel, which do fine. They did fine in their roles, but there's not really any big strong scenes, especially for Denzel, that you go, yes, that's a standout scene. He's just very capable for what little he's given. Because he's not given a whole... It's not that he's not given a whole lot of screen time. When the two finally meet in the second half of the film, he is given screen time. It's just kind of typical conversations, but there's nothing really that to give him much weight, much drama, much yelling, screaming, cursing, any range of emotions he's not really given the ability to showcase. Even that film The Siege, when he's yelling at Bruce Willis, that we fought, we died for, whatever we worked for, is over. It may already be over. Like, at least that gives him a bit of meat to the bone. There's not a whole lot of meat to the bone. And even All the President's Men. All the President's Men does not have action, but that one had a much more intricate story where you're with these two reporters. I just got really interested to see the twists and turns they get into. And at times they do separate, but then they get together and they talk and they interact with Deep Throat and all this. It just seemed much more intricately plotted movie. And that is a lengthy film, but I didn't feel bored with that movie. I didn't feel tired, and I didn't feel antsy when I was watching that movie. But this one, maybe just that one just had a much more intricate, interesting story with the cover up. And here, it is another cover up, but just not nearly as interesting. Not near. I mean, the president himself seems like a goof who's oblivious to a lot of things. So it's hard to take him fairly seriously. Maybe that's the whole point of it, to be fair. The other villain, Stanley Tucci, his character dies off like halfway through. The other people, it's like, okay, I don't really take them as much of a threat or as a presence. Some guy I don't know that has fading hair that at one point chases Julia what looks like through Mardi Gras or whatever, and some people beating the hell out of him and driving him into a damn club to beat the hell out of him some more. And then Tony Goldwyn's being shifty. He's for it, but then Tony Goldwyn doesn't feel like he gets much of a comeuppance. I'm assuming he will, but it's just a fairly meh movie. I like the two lead actors. I like the rest of the cast. John Hurt, for what little he's given, when he's told that his friend Sam Shepard has died, and I can see in his eyes he's hurt, he's confused, he's discombobulated. For that little bit, John Hurt, great actor, may he rest in peace. He does a good job there, showcasing that range of emotions in that short amount of time. But Stanley Tucci, interesting to see him play an assassin. That cold-blooded look to him. Kind of different from what Stanley Tucci usually plays in movies. Because I think of in films like The Core, among other films. John Lithgow, was great to see him in there. You don't really see much of him until around halfway through, maybe a little bit after halfway through. So he's more in the second half of the movie. Would like to have seen more of John Lithgow. It's always great to see him in there. I liked him as Denzel's boss. But yeah, I think just the pacing and the length, the running time, and that really hurt the film quite a bit. Like I said, I don't think there's enough story there to pad it out this long. Especially in the first half. Especially in the first half. Again, the second half is a little bit more interesting, but I don't think you need to take an hour and 8 minutes for our two leads to finally get together. Political thrillers, I've got more into Murder at 1600, Wesley Snipes, or various other films that dealt with political intrigue. So it's not an awful film. It's just a film that you watch and don't be surprised if you're itching to hit that fast forward button from time to time. And it's a film, like I said, I forgot how it was, and I more than likely will never see it again. Is it awful? No. Would I ever see it again? I had it on DVD. I do have it on DVD. I think it's over there. I think I see it now, actually. I watched it online because it was easier. Because I couldn't find it. But as I'm talking, I think I know where it's at. But it's like, take it for what you will. Not big on it, is what is my feeling on it. Like I said, I mentioned other films I enjoyed much more than those. Not just because of lack of action. Again, All the President's Men has a lack of action, but I enjoy that more than this in terms of story. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.